Today, we're so excited to have our speaker, Hotan Shahbazi-Harmon, and her topic will be Harnessing the Power of Prayer. Hotan Shahbazi-Harmon is a multiple award-winning journalist and producer, social entrepreneur, and the founder and CEO of Conscious Leadership Alliance, a full-service leadership advising and consulting service. Khotan has won 2 Gracie Awards for her show on KOOP Radio 91.7 FM for interviews she did with the Iranian women's rights activist and Nobel Peace Prize winner, Dr. Shirin Ebadi, and with author Isabel Wilkerson on the story and impact of the mass migration of millions of African Americans out of the South to the North and West in the US between World War I and 1968. In 2016, Austin Monthly Magazine named her one of the women we love. Khotan serves on various community, equity, leadership, and business organization boards, and works on issues of social innovation, flourishing communities, future trends, purpose-driven philanthropy, and transformative leadership, knowledge, culture, and growth. Khotan lives in Austin with her husband, Wade, and their cat, Zuzu. And with that, please take it away.
Thank you. Gosh, I am breaking out into a hive. I'm so embarrassed. There's really no need to read all of that. I'm so excited to be here with you all. This is sort of a homecoming for me. I lived in that Northern Virginia, DC area for 12 years. I actually graduated from American University. I worked at Georgetown University. I took classes at Northern Virginia Community College, which I really loved. I was part of a young adult community. I see a couple of my friends here. I see Peyman Akhavan is on this call. I see Farzad Qasemi is here. I'm so happy. And I'm sure there are more friends here. If I'm not calling on you, I apologize, but so happy to see you all. It was such an amazing community to live in. It was wonderful to know so many dear friends and to be able to grow up together and have a Baha'i identity. The Hansackers were so lovely. I don't know if anyone remembers them. We used to have youth retreat at their place, and Anita Chapman was so kind, and so many of the dear friends in DC. So, and also I want to greet my family. I have some cousins, of course, being Persian, I have cousins everywhere. So I have some cousins here. Where are they? Can they wave? They're my cousins. I'm so happy that they're here, and some new friends that I'm making as well. So dear friends, I left DC to go pioneering in Eastern Europe, and that was the launching site for me to leave Washington, DC area. And then it was really amazing. So I came from the community, and I'm happy to be here to spend some time with you. So this is so wonderful. I am not used to delivering speeches, so I apologize. It's going to be highly interactive. And I do have a tendency to call on people because I am an interviewer and journalist as well. So I hope that you get engaged in this discussion. Thank you, Armin John and Peyman John, for the invitation to be here with you all and to go a little bit, try to get a deeper look at prayer and meditation. So with that, if it's all right with you, I'm going to share my screen and then we will start together. I do have a PowerPoint that I like to share with you. And if you're okay with it, I would like to invite you to go along with me on, let's see, we're going to start, if you are comfortable, to just start with centering ourselves a little bit so that we can begin the process of a deep reflection. So this one is more or less a guided way to do breathing. If you want to think about it as reflection, if you want to think about it as meditation, you're welcome to. This, if you follow it, you'll see it is timed and it'll tell you what to do. Maybe we can do it a few rounds if that's okay. So when it gets to 1, it'll start again. Okay, so we'll start with prayer. And this beautiful art is by a young woman by name of Asia Boros from, she lives in Croatia, and I was visiting Croatia last year. They have a beautiful country, lovely people. The reason I want to share is that this coming year, Croatia is going to have its first National Spiritual Assembly. She's not a Baha'i, but I wanted to honor the community. And also her work is incredibly spiritual. And this whole concept of prayer, the in-between two worlds, was really very useful mental model for us. So, okay, let's go forward. So whatever I say to you, please completely disregard. Whatever you read from the writings that I'm going to share with you from the Baha'i Holy Writings, that's where our focus should be. After we go through the prayer section, we're going to stop and we're going to have a discussion. So if you don't mind, you're welcome to put your questions, comments in chat or hold on to them, and then we'll get together to that when we get to that section. All right. So this is, and I will read these with you. So I beseech thee to make of my prayer a fire that will burn away the veils which have shut me out from thy beauty, and a light that will lead me unto the ocean of thy presence. This is by Baha'u'llah. Every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God is endowed with such potency as can instill new life into every human frame, if ye be of them that comprehend this truth. Of course, we read this earlier. Yarajun read this. Intone, O my servants, the verses of God that have been received by thee, as intoned by them who have drawn nigh unto him, that the sweetness of thy melody may kindle thine own soul and attract the hearts of all men. Whoso reciteth in the privacy of his chamber the verses revealed by God, the scattering angels of the Almighty shall scatter abroad the fragrance of the words uttered by his mouth, and shall cause the heart of every righteous man to throb. Though he may at first remain unaware of its effect, yet the virtue of the grace vouchsafed unto him must needs sooner or later exercise its influence upon his soul. Abdul Baha tells us in the Tablets of Divine Plan that we need to become incarnate light and personified spirit. What does that mean, to become incarnate light and personified spirit? Abdu'l-Baha says, remembrance of God is like the rain and the dew which bestow freshness and grace on flowers and hyacinths, revive them and cause them to acquire fragrance, redolence, and renewed charm. And thou hast seen the earth dried up and barren, but when we send down the rain upon it, it stirreth and swelleth and groweth every kind of luxuriant herb. Strive thou then to praise and glorify God by night and by day, that thou mayest attain infinite freshness and beauty. The guardian of the faith says the power of God can entirely transmute our characters and make of us beings entirely unlike our previous selves. What a mercy that is from God. What a gift this is. Through prayer and supplication, obedience to the divine laws Baha'u'llah has revealed, and ever-increasing service to his faith, we can change ourselves. So if anyone needs a prescription for changing completely, If anyone feels like we want to have a new and fresh character, not a personality, but a character, who we truly are, the guardian is very clear in his prescription. Prayer and supplication, obedience to the divine laws Baha'u'llah has revealed, in ever-increasing service to his faith, that's how we can change ourselves. Okay, beautiful, beautiful writings, deeply, deeply insightful. So if you're like me, I'm thinking, okay, how do I put prayer into practice? And so one way is there is this beautiful 5-step process that the guardian of the Baha'i faith has identified. These are parts of what to Baha'is are known as pilgrim notes. So they are not authenticated in terms of revelation. However, the guardian thought that they were useful enough for the Baha'is to use. And this is the source in case anyone would like to go and check it out. And it was actually it's by someone by the name of Mrs. Muffet, who had a conversation with the guardian and got this directly from him. The steps are: step 1, pray and meditate about it. Use the prayers of the manifestations as they have the greatest power. Then remain in silence of contemplation for a few minutes. Let's see if I can advance this. Step 2, arrive at a decision and hold this. This decision is usually born during the contemplation. It may seem almost impossible to accomplish, of accomplishment, but if it seems to be an answer to a prayer or a way of solving the problem, then immediately take the next step. Step 3, have determination to carry the decision through. Many fail here. The decision budding into determination is blighted and instead becomes a wish or a vague longing. When determination is born, immediately take the next step. Step 4, have faith and confidence that the power will flow through you, the right way will appear, the door will open, the right thought, the right message, the right principle, or the right book will be given you. Have confidence and the right thing will come to your need. Then, as you rise from prayer, take at once the 5th step. Then he said, lastly, act. Act as though it had all been answered. Then act with tireless, ceaseless energy. And as you act, you yourself will become a magnet, which will attract more power to your being until you become an unobstructed channel for the divine power to flow through you. Okay, here's an admonition. Many pray, but do not remain for the last half of the 1st step. Some who meditate arrive at a decision, but fail to hold it. Few have the determination to carry the decision through. Still fewer have the confidence that the right thing will come to their need. But how many remember to act as though it had all been answered? How true are those words? Greater than the prayer is the spirit in which it is uttered, and greater than the way it is uttered is the spirit in which it is carried out. Okay, wonderful. So now what I like to do is to stop sharing for a minute and see where everybody is at in terms of any questions, any thoughts. What do you all think about what we just read?
I see someone's asking, maybe you could just explain who the guardian is for those.
Oh, thank you. Yes, very good. The guardian is the grandson of Abdu'l-Baha, and he was the center of the covenant after Abdu'l-Baha's passing, and he is the builder of the administrative system of the administrative order in the Baha'i faith. I think Razi has raised their hand. Razi Samimi, I think.
Okay. Can I ask you something?
Please.
Okay. Could you please explain number 5, step 5, where it says you have to act? Can you explain what it means by act? I mean, what does it mean by act?
Good question.
Act what? You know.
Okay, very good question. So let's go back to that. Let's look at that. Thank you for asking that question. So
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Namimi. So this is the question. Then lastly, act as though it had all been answered. Okay, so the steps are that arrive at a decision. And so we're praying and meditating. My current understanding is, I would love to hear what your thoughts are. Praying and meditating about it, using the prayers of the manifestations. We remain in silence. We're asking for a solution to a problem, and we're asking for assistance. And second is that we arrive at a decision. Something comes into our mind or our heart, and it sounds like it is a decision, but sometimes it's like, it can't possibly be this, whatever we're thinking. But the guardian is recommending that we actually hold on to that as a way of solving the problem, that is the answer, and immediately go to the next step, which is have a determination to carry the decision through. So instead of having a sense of sitting down and writing maybe like a cost-benefit analysis, looking at pros and cons, is if there is some answer, seems to be an answer to that particular question that we're asking, is to be able to move on it and have a determination that I may not understand it at this point, but this seems to be an answer to that question or a solution. And step 4 is to have faith and confidence that we will have the right resources, the right energy, the right people. Sometimes, I don't know if you've had this experience, all of a sudden you talk to the right person, you find a book, you're on the internet, you find the right video, something flows into our life to answer that question or make it happen. And to the 5th step that you brought up, Mrs. Tamimi, then acting as though it's all been answered. So arising to say it is done. It has been, this question has been solved. This is the answer. Now I will carry it out. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. So in other words, what you're saying is like, we're kind of like, we're being enlightened at that time?
We're being enlightened, and my personal limited experience is that we are aligned. So that there is a spiritual internet that we're plugging into, that all of the solutions exist to the questions I may be asking, and I'm plugging into it so that like a lamp, I can download into that electricity, the spiritual electrical circuit, and get the information, and it flows through me and makes me aligned with the answer. Because sometimes the answer seems so impossible because of our own mental construct of right, wrong, and how we should approach things. But thank you. That's a wonderful question. Thank you for that.
Thank you so much for the explanation. Thank you.
Any other thoughts around that? About prayer and using it to solve problems? Anyone has had any experiences?
I see a question from
Wonderful.
Toby.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. And I have a question. Like, first of all, when you base this information on the individual basis, I can see how, you know, you can reflect on your actions, how you can pray on and take those actions. I'm wondering, how does it look like when you are acting in the fora of institutional level?
Hi, Toby. Nice to meet you. Where are you at, Toby?
I'm in the US.
In the US. So good to see you. Lovely to meet you.
Good to see you too. Yeah.
So it's a great question that Toby's asking. How can we put the 5 steps to solving a problem within institutions? Any thoughts on that? Would anyone like to put in chat what your thoughts are? I'd love to see that. I'll take a shot at it, Toby. This is my own personal experience, is that sometimes having served on various Baha'i institutions, I have found some of it to be challenging, and trying to, whether it's personalities, whether it's the work, sort of exhaustion from constantly trying to understand the plans and then aligning with the plans, doing the right activities. And for me personally, and I hate to personalize this, but one way of approaching it is that the prayer and meditation has helped in being able to stay in a place of being able to receive the change that is happening so that I can move towards becoming an instrument to be able to serve. So I don't know if that makes sense to anyone, but for me, sometimes I wonder, my goodness, how much am I a hindrance to the process because of my own limitations and background? I know myself, I know all my own limitations and challenges. How can I stay in a place so that I can truly consult? I can truly engage so that it's not about me. And also part of the challenge is the trauma that is not processed and dealt with. I broadcast that externally. So if I come into a space that is somehow triggering for me, I may bring a whole lot of stuff in that cannot help serve the process or the work of the institution. So how do I do my work and then come into do service? And then that's where begging Baha'u'llah, please help me. I don't know how to solve this particular problem. Getting somehow the answer, even if it is something that may not seem like the solution, believing that is the solution, having faith and moving forward, and all the resources come. Toby, does that make any sense? You are muted, my friend.
Yeah, I'm, I was looking at it when you are like at the institutional, let's say in a Baha'i institution, when you you are either being a local assembly member or during reflection meetings and so forth. When you are entering into the meetings, I think one thing is detachment. You have to detach yourself from whatever the situation is and go in in the meeting with that prayerful attitude, so that when you are in a consultation about a particular issue, you are not focusing on someone as who the person is saying, but what the person is saying. You focus on that material information of the person, not the person.
Yes.
So when you are detached from that, I don't know how we can categorize that in steps, like the 5 steps, but I would think that in any institution, there are always some situation where you may decide on something and it will not work, and you have to come and reflect on the lessons learned and, adjust your method of approach and things, adding more elements to make it work.
Yes.
So I was just saying, those kind of situation, how do we categorize it in these 5 steps? That's what I was just thinking through as you were going through those steps.
Wonderful. Thank you for that, Toby. So it's a great question. And how do we put into action this spiritual teaching that is giving us, Eric Datesman, I love your dog, very sweet, to how do we put into the steps, how do we apply it? I love what you were asking, Toby, because that's exactly what I was hoping would happen today, is that as we are reading together, we begin to think about how do we apply this in different circumstances? And what do we do with the information that we get? Because if we're only reading it and we're being inspired by it, that's only half of it. The other half is the action. How do we take the steps to put them into practice? So Paimanajan, I think Vinny had her.
Yes. Just before that, in the chat, we have a question from
Yes.
Could you please recommend certain prayers for this purpose?
All of them. I mean, they're all great prayers. If you, Baha'i prayers, if you Google Baha'i prayers online, like Baha'iPrayers.org, I believe, you should be able to find by category. There's so many prayers. Of course, Obligatory prayers are important. As Baha'is, we have the bounty of having been given a short obligatory prayer, which you can say once every 24 hours. There is medium, which we say 3 times a day, or the long obligatory prayer, which you can also say once every 24 hours. And it's so amazing, Pandian, that you're asking that question, because when I was traveling in China, some friends were asking, how could you show us one of these prayers? And the long obligatory prayer, these Chinese friends were saying, it's amazing because it keeps pulling energy through your body as you're moving, because there's certain movements associated with it. So how can we allow the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of God, to move through us as we say prayer? It's a wonderful process. I would recommend that you look at or Google obligatory prayers Baha'i and see what comes up. And oh, thank you, Yarajun, fantastic. And Yarajun, can you put something in there on the obligatory prayer? That would be awesome too. But great question, thank you.
Great, so I will unmute Vinny now.
Hi, Vinny. Hi, Vinny.
Hello, Khotan. Thank you very much. I haven't really got this question sorted out in my head, but the one that kind of caught my interest there was the power of God can entirely transmute our characters and make of us entirely unlike our previous selves. Yeah. Now that's a wonderful statement from the Guardian. But I suppose what I'm thinking of is that, you know, in daily life, in your work, in friendships and everything, there are times when you come up against an obstacle and I find it difficult sometimes to overcome it, because it's almost as though when you give in time and time again, you say, well, okay, I know the right thing to do is probably just to apologize, even though you feel that you're not wrong. And it just, you know, the same situation occurs again and again and again. And you feel that in some relationships that maybe actually this is harming the relationship, always kind of being the person who says sorry first.
Yes, yes. That's such an interesting
I don't know if that's a right question for this.
Oh, no, it's a wonderful question, Vinny. Thank you for bringing that up. So within, not so much the Baha'i world, but I don't know if there's a Baha'i, non-Baha'i world, but within, well, let me put it this way. Whatever, like I was saying earlier, the trauma that is not processed and managed and healed is broadcast, right? So sometimes we go forward and trying to solve problems where we can't actually see things correctly. Truthfulness, we're told, is the foundation of all human virtues. But we're also told to be kind and truthful, right? To be frank and loving. So if you're going to say something very, very difficult to me, Vinny, if you and our friends and we have a heart connection, it's so much easier for me to hear you if I know you love me, that you're coming to talk to me heart to heart, rather than you're coming to just talk about all the things I'm doing wrong, right? So, and also the responsibility lays with the one most healed, with the one most awakened, with the one who is most insightful, with the one who has the greater awareness. So it doesn't absolve anyone else of the responsibility to come forward and say, I'm sorry. Oh my God, how many of us are married on this call? Don't we have this conversation in our marriages? Why don't you ever say, I'm sorry? I mean, why, right? I mean, this is a conversation that happens within many intimate relationships. And so the thing is, it's all about spiritual growth, and it's all about awakening to who we truly are. And how do we get to that level? So tests and difficulties, understanding that we just don't, my perspective may not be the right perspective. I don't know what's happening. I may be getting triggered. I don't know why, like you were saying, should the person be the only one who says, I'm sorry all the time? But what happens if I pray about that and using these 5 steps and figure out, Baha'u'llah, I don't know, I'm feeling uncomfortable. How do I deal with this? So my heart was broken in a relationship, let's say, just some interaction. I don't know if I'm being oversensitive or if the other person has done something. Can you help guide me? Give me the right answer, the right resources, help protect my heart help guide my hand, help. So true reliance on Baha'u'llah, and then be able to move forward in that with faith that the right response will happen. And also we're told by Abdu'l-Baha that tests come, remember, again and again and again, right, Vinny? And then what?
Well tested.
Well tested. Again and again and again until we pass that test. Then it's no longer a test. But what my current understanding of that is that we are tested so that we can learn that we have gap to goal. We have a lot of challenges. We really need to develop in certain ways. We can't believe that we are wrong. We can't believe that we still have a lot to grow around. So thank you for that. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. Wonderful. Let's see.
I see one question in the chat from Payman. In sharing these 5 steps of prayer, can you share any personal experiences you've had or anyone else you'd like to share?
Yeah, Payman, where are you? Payman Akhavan, let's hear it.
No, I've just heard some experiences myself. I thought if you have any or some stories to share, it would be wonderful as how prayer has helped solve some difficulties, or how through prayer something has come to you, or any other stories that you've heard. I thought it would be interesting. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So as Payman was saying earlier, I had a radio show for 10 years in Austin. And my background is international relations, economic development. It wasn't journalism. I happened to be on a radio show in Austin, and the host said, "Oh my goodness, you have such a nice radio voice. You should really consider being on the radio." And I thought, this is strange. I've never thought about this. And so we were talking about economic development for women. I had a program in eastern part of Austin, in East Austin, to help get women off of welfare through self-sufficiency and developing their own businesses. So I went home and I prayed. I tried to put the 5 steps into play, and I said, Baha'u'llah, I don't know. This opportunity has come. Is this what you want me to do? Pray, stay quiet. I hear my answer, move. And I'm like, great. I moved as if it's been answered, as if I have this radio show. Nobody, no training. I went to the first meeting. I sat next to this person, and this person turned around to me and they said, just because you're here doesn't mean you're going to be on the radio in the next few years. Friends, would you believe it? In a month, this poor soul was off the air and I had their spot. So it's like, I'm like, you don't know what you're dealing with here. I've prayed to Baha'u'llah if he wants this done. And what I've realized is that if it is meant for you, nothing can deter it. If it is not meant for you, there is no way you can make it work. Being a relationship, being a job, being whatever it is that we want so desperately, and that wanting, that longing for things that we're told. And it was so wonderful. One of the friends here was talking about detachment. How do you detach from what we want and just pray for the will of God? It was Hooper Dunbar was giving a fantastic talk on prayer and meditation. And he was saying there was one of the friends who had told Abdu'l-Baha, I think it was Abdu'l-Baha, that he's happy all the time because whatever he wants, God does. And they're like, well, how is that possible? He says, because I align myself with the will of God. Whatever he wants, I want. So I'm very happy. So I know that's in jest, but the point is when we pray and move in prayer, doors will open up that we did not expect. Now, the challenge is that we have to actually act. So there are individuals like Dr. Muhajir, as many of you know, Gisu Muhajir lives in your community in Washington, D.C. area. Wonderful, wonderful soul. And there are stories that were shared about her father, her amazing dad, that apparently Mrs. Muhajir was saying that they were at a conference, I think, in Kenya. And she had her husband's coat over her arm. It was hot. He took off his coat and she's standing there. And she turned around looking for her husband and somebody said, he's gone. She's like, what do you mean? I have his coat over my arm. They said he got a cable from the Guardian and he left. And they're like, she's like, I have his coat. I have all his, apparently he had to leave to go on a mission for the Guardian. He grabbed the first person because the guidance came, go, and he went. That's the level of certitude with our answers. And I think as we practice, as we hear the guidance, because sometimes it's like, how can we know what's true and what's not? Then we know how to align with it and move. Okay, so this is where we ended, remember? And then we said that this was a challenge. So in the light of our consultation, please take a look at this and see where you personally, this is just a private reflection, where you get stuck. Look at what the guardian says. He says, this is where you get stuck. We all get stuck. Okay, have you identified just in your own mind? You'll know because it'll feel like a knot in your stomach. It's like, oh, that's the one. Okay, so somehow please make a mental note for yourself where this is and hold on to that. We're going to go forward and then we're going to use that at the end. Okay, so now we're going to look at meditation. So we're going to trust our inner guidance to lead us where we're meant to be. So how do you know you're speaking to your spirit? How do we know we're not talking to our ego versus our spirit? That's an important question. And just to start that process, could you please think about, if you can close your eyes for a moment and think about the color blue. Think about the bluest blue you can think of that makes your heart so happy. What color is it? Is it light blue? Is it turquoise blue? Is it navy blue? Is it twilight blue? Find that blue and just keep thinking about it. Do you feel it? Do you think it? Think about it hard. So here's my question to you. Who is it that's doing the thinking? We are something in us, there's some faculty that it can imagine and think about this color blue. Hold on to that feeling as we go through this. Let's see if we get a deeper sense. Let's start there and see if we can go deeper. Okay, so the next section on meditation is all taken from Abdul Baha, from his book, Paris Talks. And I'll go through it with us. Baha'u'llah says, there is a sign from God in every phenomenon. So there is the book of creation and the mirror is the book of revelation. Everything in creation has a mirror on this plane of existence. And it's reflected in a mirror form. The sign of intellect is contemplation. And the sign of contemplation is silence. Because it is impossible for a man to do two things at one time. He cannot both speak and meditate. So no multitasking when it comes to meditation. And the interesting thing, friends, is that if you look at the letters, listen and silent all have the same letters. If you think about it, listen and silent. It is an axiomatic fact that while you meditate, you are speaking with your own spirit. In that state of mind, you put certain questions to your spirit and the spirit answers. The light breaks forth and the reality is revealed. Okay, so here we're speaking to our own spirits. We're putting questions to our spirit. Remember the 5-step. We're asking a question and the spirit answers. There is some sort of answer that comes through, light breaks forth, and reality is revealed. What is the truth of this particular situation could be the question, or how do I solve this? Or how do I move forward? Or who do I need to connect with? How do I teach the faith? Whatever those questions are, right? Challenges in our families, in our friends, serving the faith, in our businesses. We need guidance. So we are speaking and we're listening. So prayer could be like calling up our spirit, calling up God. And then meditation is staying long enough on the phone to hear the answer, right? So it is a complete system. We call, through our prayers, through our intention, we stay within that space, then we stay on the line to try to listen for and develop the capacity to listen for the answer to our prayer. Okay. You cannot apply the name man to any being devoid of this faculty of meditation. Without it, he would be a mere animal, lower than the beasts. Through the faculty of meditation, man attains to eternal life. Through it, he receives the breath of the Holy Spirit. The bestowal of the Spirit is given in reflection and meditation. The spirit of man is itself informed and strengthened during meditation. Through its affairs, of which man knew nothing, are unfolded before his view. Through it, he receives divine inspiration. Through it, he receives heavenly food. So if we have this capacity of meditation, we have the faculty of it, and Abdu'l-Baha is saying we do need to use it in order to receive the breaths of the Holy Spirit, the animating Spirit, and the bestowals of the Spirit. And we receive that through reflection and meditation, and then we push that into the world through our action, right? So we are both strengthened during meditation and informed. We get our information, and while we're getting the information, we are developing the capacity. The container becomes more strengthened. It becomes fortified, it becomes larger, it becomes deeper as we practice meditation. The very act of it is in our best interest. It helps us develop. Okay. Meditation, Abdu'l-Baha tells us, is the key. It's the key for opening the doors of mysteries. In that state, man abstracts himself. You remember in the prayers, it says moving beyond syllables and sounds through our prayer, going beyond language in a way that is, what is the word? We know the modern word is energy, whatever we want to call it, spirit. Here we're told we will abstract ourselves. So it feels like breathing. Inhale, exhale. You know, we are focused, then we're abstract. We're focused, then we're abstract. There's a process, flowing, ebb and flowing. We are focused in our prayer, then we become abstract in our meditation. It's a beautiful process. So in that state, man abstracts himself. In that state, man withdraws himself from all outside objects. In that subjective mood, he is immersed in the ocean of spiritual life and can unfold the secrets of things in themselves. But we have to be in that mode to be able to do this, is my understanding. But please take a closer look and see what your thoughts or questions are so we can explore it more. To illustrate this, think of man as endowed with two kinds of sight. When the power of insight is being used, the outward power of vision does not see. So how does that work? Seeing and then going inside to meditation and then seeing externally and going. Isn't that interesting? Again, it's two processes happening. Looking externally, seeing things. Can we see them for what they truly are? If this world is the shadow world of the next world, is what we're seeing real? Is this true? If not, how do we see reality for what it is? How do we align ourselves with that? This is such a profound way of looking at meditation. Please look at this and interact with this writing, this holy writing. Let's just be with it for a minute. See what insights you can get from it. So I want to invite you to take this quote in with your mind. And now I want to invite you to interact with this quote and take it in with your heart. See if there's a difference in terms of what you get from it. Just breathe, pull the breath through your body. Just open up as a container, your body. Open up the body and see how, because, you know, the creative word of God is the master key that unlocks the hearts of men, which in reality are the doors of heaven. Let's see how this unlocks our hearts right now. But we have to be open and out of our head into our heart. Open up. Wonderful. Thank you. Okay. This faculty of meditation frees man from the animal nature, discerns the reality of things, puts man in touch with God. This is really fascinating. Look at that quote again. The faculty of meditation frees man from the animal nature. So we have an animal nature. So if we think of it as a thermometer, 0 is the animal nature, 100 is spiritual divine nature. Baha'u'llah has come in and set the thermostat at 85 and above, or whatever that might be. How do we then use the thermometer to check in with ourselves spiritually to see where are we? We all have to rise up into our spiritual nature. How do we rise up? It says through meditation, right? It frees us from the animal nature. So the animal reality of existence, the animal expression of who we are. So and we have to know what that is. Knowledge is incredibly powerful. We have to know, is this an animal expression of me? Or is this a divine expression of who I am? How I behave, what I say, how I interact with people, how I present myself, what I think, what I believe. How do I free myself from the animal nature? And then be able to discernment to see the reality of things. And it puts us in touch with God. This faculty brings forth from the invisible plane the sciences and the arts. So creation comes through this realm. Through the meditative faculty, inventions are made possible. Colossal undertakings are carried out. Now look at the next piece of this sentence. Look how surprising this is. Through it, governments can run smoothly. Through this faculty, man enters into the very kingdom of God. It's amazing to see how Abdu'l-Baha is walking us through true growth, true civilization, that it comes from the faculty of meditation and reflection, how we pull down from the invisible plane, science and arts. So we're pulling down energy of the Holy Spirit. We're pulling down sciences and the arts. What do we have to do to be open and become the channel through which the love of God, the Spirit, Holy Spirit moves into the world and through us into the world? And how do we know it's not our ego creating and our spirit creating? We have to be, it tells us the faculty of meditation frees us from the animal nature. Okay. Nevertheless, some thoughts are useless to man. They are like waves moving in the sea without result. But if the faculty of meditation is bathed in the inner light and characterized by divine attributes, the results will be confirmed. So friends, remember our checklist with the 5 steps for prayer? Here are the steps to know we're doing meditation correctly, right? Because some of the thoughts that we have are totally useless because we're growing. We're going from animal nature to divine nature. So we have to work through some stuff. And as we go higher, if you want to think of it that way, like the thermometer, there is this solidification that has to fall apart, and we have to rise out of that. So we can't hold on to all these useless ideas. These are like waves that move in the sea without any result. But if the faculty of meditation, here we go, here's our checklist, is bathed in inner light. Remember Abdu'l-Baha saying we must become incarnate light? What does that mean? And characterized with divine attributes. So how much can we pull light through us, pull the energy, the divine spirit through us? How can we get rid of the pith of self, our ego, our wants, needs, me, in the key of me all the time? How do we get rid of that and clear that so that we can have inner light shining through and develop our attributes? The virtues, kindness, justice, mercy, truthfulness, honesty, chastity. How do we develop the virtues so that as a container, as an instrument, we are fit to be able to pull that energy down? The meditative faculty is akin to the mirror. If you put it before earthly objects, it will reflect them. Therefore, if the spirit of man is contemplating earthly objects, he will be informed of these. So again, very practical, friends. Where do we put our attention to? Wherever we put our attention, that's where our energy will flow. That's where our understanding will be. Is it around things of lower nature, the shadow world, or is it its mirror, the kingdom of revelation and the kingdom of God? How do we pull that energy down into this world? How do we focus in it, and how do we become the instrument through which that energy can flow? All right. If you turn the mirror of your spirit heavenwards, the heavenly constellations and the rays of the sun of reality will be reflected in your hearts, and the virtues of the kingdom will be obtained. Therefore, let us keep this faculty rightly directed, turning it to the heavenly sun and not to earthly objects, so that we may discover the secrets of the kingdom. May we indeed become mirrors reflecting the heavenly realities. May we become so pure as to reflect the stars of heaven. So what do we do with our mirror, with our thoughts, with our intention, with our decisions, with where our attention goes, with what we believe is right or wrong? Do we turn it towards Baha'u'llah, towards the sun, towards the heaven, the sun of reality, and turning our back to the darkness? Do we develop the virtues of the kingdom? It's a tall order. All right, let's see where we are at. I'm going to stop sharing for a minute. What do you guys think? That's a lot. I see this beautiful face, Mrs. Shirley Richardson. I would love to hear your thoughts, Mrs. Richardson. What are your thoughts about all of this?
Well, I've been a Baha'i for about 21 years.
Wonderful.
And meditation is very important to me. I have learned something from your take on meditation, and I like the 5 steps that you gave us, and I intend to use those when I meditate again.
Yes.
And I also want to say to my Baha'i friends, it's nice to see them. I haven't seen them in years, and it's just wonderful to see them. And I'm happy to meet you.
Thank you. It's so lovely to meet you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
What do we think about meditation? Reflection, meditation. What are some of your experiences with meditation?
So Razi in the chat asked, could you please explain the sun of reality?
Oh, good question. Gosh, this is so challenging because I can tell you what I think it is, but I don't know if I know the truth of it because, you know, We're told in the faith that everything has so many levels of understanding. For me, the Son of Reality is the manifestation of God. It is that perfect mirror that reflects God, because we directly cannot see God, but we can see his perfect reflection in the manifestations of God, like His Holiness Baha'u'llah, His Holiness the Bab, His Holiness Muhammad, His Holiness Buddha, His Holiness Jesus. That's the Son of Reality to me. Does anyone else have any other thoughts around this?
Well, I see a question or hand from Farah, so I'll unmute you.
Okay, Farah.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed listening to the whole thing, and I just wanted to make a reflection as you asked.
Please.
I have been doing meditation for over 30 years, and I just know one thing is for sure. It's nothing that you can just pick up and think that you're going to get exactly where you want to go, like a quick fix. Because in general, most people approach it that way. I've shared that with a lot of friends who do meditation, and it seems like they think, you know, how am I going to get there? And it's just like, I got bored. I put it away because they are in general expecting to see the result right away. Now, with meditation, which is an ancient practice, is nothing that we brought about. Ancient practice. It takes patience. It takes willingness to sit still. It takes time. And the more you do it, the better you get acquainted with yourself. So it's nothing that you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're there. Yes, there are steps to take, and that's wonderful to use one set of steps versus the other sets of steps. But I started actually with the public library in Fairfax County, and there is a book. There are many books called for Dummies, and that was one of them. Was called Meditation for Dummies.
Wonderful.
And to be honest with you, I really learned many things by just using those very basic steps, not to expecting to get to this realm of reality that, you know, my spiritual reality, but to be willing to sit still and focus on my breath. That is something everyone needs to learn first. Focusing on your breath, because then you're distracting your mind from jumping like a monkey from branch to branch. And that works for me. I'm not saying that it works for everyone. I'm just sharing with you that meditation has been around for a long time. It's an ancient practice, and it only works for you when you're willing to be patient and see how deep you want to go within.
Yes, beautifully said. Thank you, Farah.
Thank you.
That's wonderful. So
no, I'm Farah. I'm just Farah.
Thank you. So we are going to get to that slide in a moment. The guardian of the Baha'i Faith, again, this gentleman who was the center of the covenant of the Baha'i Faith, who passed away in the early part of 19th century or mid part of 20th century, excuse me. He was very adamant about this, that there is no set way to meditate.
Exactly.
That no one can come and tell, as I was saying, there's no way to come in for me even to say, remember I was saying at the beginning, I'm sharing with you some of my thoughts. Please disregard everything I say, only focus on the holy writings and the guidance and draw your own conclusions. He says that, of course, everyone should be praying and everyone should be meditating, but there is no set way, as Farah said. So thank you for sharing that. And if there are other resources, please put it in chat as well. So in the Baha'i Faith, we are encouraged to meditate, to pray, but there is no Baha'i way of meditating. So I want to be clear. I know there's some non-Baha'i friends on this call. I apologize if I'm using a lot of Baha'i jargon. I'll try to catch myself doing that. So thank you. Somebody put, you're so lovely. Thank you, Munir. Munir put who exactly Shoghi Effendi is in chat. Thank you for doing that for me. Let's see. Maimuna John, who's next?
So I'm going to first go to people who haven't asked a question yet. So
Okay.
I'll go to Ricardo next.
Okay. Hi, Ricardo.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hello.
I just had I wanted to ask a question because you had just described, meditation like this really profound, awesome, like way describing like, a lot of energies, you really utilizing the mind and like this, it seems like this whole process. And I really like that. But for me, I kind of wanted you to maybe give some advice on, at least for me, I feel like times where I need meditation the most are in very, chaotic, stressful situations, whether, busy day at work or, stuck in traffic or in a place where you really don't have a moment to like sit down and start thinking like mind and energy and to go through this whole process of meditation. What are the kind of the key points to really get that full experience of meditation, but in a very, maybe like in a bite-sized pieces where in often moments where you need meditation the most are in moments where it's hard to, get that full process because it's a very stressful situation.
Oh, thank you, Ricardo. That's a wonderful question. I'm so glad you asked this. So I find it helpful. This is just my own perspective, and I would love if others have other suggestions for Ricardo to please put it in chat so we can all learn together, is if I have a word that will help me, I use it as a placeholder to get me to what I want to feel. So what I mean by that, Ricardo, is that I try to practice meditation daily so that I actually get to a point where I'm not being so stressed out. I get, oh, this is what this feels like it. I don't know if it is true or not. So I don't know if I'm getting there, but okay. So this feels like it. My mind is calm. I'm feeling centered. I feel this expansion around me. I have no anxiety in me. So somehow trying to get to that when I am in a place where I can get there. So, after maybe taking a shower, saying a few prayers, having something calm, maybe having a little bit of, protein, something to help my poor brain. And then when I said it, then I use a word or like something in my body, like touching my finger. Like I say, okay, in the Baha'i Faith, we're given this practice of that I have been using. Anyway, just this practice of Allahu Akbar, which is calling on the name of God 95 times. And you can use your finger, like the 3 parts, and you go around a few times. And that is sort of meditative because it's repetition, Ricardo. So it's like saying, I can, I'm calm. It's like that. You can use any word. It's just Allahu Akbar because of that element of, oh my gosh, I'm calling on help from God. Then it helps lessen my anxiety. Does that make sense, Ricardo? So that for me is like when I do that practice, if I'm in the car and, there's so much road rage and people are so upset and it's so hot in Texas. I'm in Austin, Texas, and people are wearing masks and it's so clunky. And I'm like, oh my God, I need to reset here. How do I reset? How do I reboot? So for me, it's that Allahu Akbar that just helps me, but you can choose any word you want. So does that make sense?
Yes, it's almost like finding something that just takes you back to like kind of like a restart button. Just kind of like if I do this, it just kind of coincides with mentally resetting.
Mentally resetting, and then also find your breath, because we forget that we're breathing. Remember that initial exercise we did? I was tricking you into finding your breath, right? So there was that exercise we did where you were breathing, holding it, and then exhaling it. That could be, it's not the only one, and it's just something that could help, but please find your breath. So if everyone could just take a deep breath right now, and exhale. So we've been breathing all this time, but isn't it funny? We just found it, and it also oxygenates your brain as well. I hope that's helpful for you. And others are saying prayers really work for them. There is a remover of difficulties. It's a short little prayer. If someone could please put that in chat, that would be helpful as well. And then Farah is saying, watch how the breath moves outside through your nostrils. Exactly. Goes into your belly, oxygenate yourself. There is a new exercise that I have found. It's not new, but it's called the 4-minute workout by Dr. Zach Bush. He's a triple board certified physician. And he says this 4 minutes of doing this exercise oxygenates your whole body, your brain, your body. And so you feel a lot better. So those are some ideas. Thank you, Ricardo, for that.
So I got a question through private message from Alex from Norway, and he says, do you have any thoughts or experiences to share on what receiving an answer, in other words, receiving one's marching order, upon meditating on a problem looks like, or in other words, achieving certitude at a certain moment?
Oh, hi, Alex. Where is Alex? Hello. Nice to see you. So glad you're here from Norway. Oh, that's a great question. That's a great question. Can you hold on to that question? I'd like to answer that at the end. Is that okay? Because I would love for us to actually do it together. We'll do it in a minute before we all head out in a few minutes. So let's see if the other questions, and then I'd like to address Alex's question by actually all of us doing something together.
I think that's the last question.
I think Yara has her hand up.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I couldn't find the raise my hand. But what I was going to ask is, you talked about how meditation helps us kind of separate whether what we're asking for or like our realization of the answer is because of our ego or because of the spirit. Yeah. And I was wondering, like, is there any specific, I guess, ways either that you've experienced or that you could recommend how we can really more cognizantly separate the two and really get a better understanding of which one is acting?
Yes, wonderful. So yes, with that in mind, beautiful. You're all just priming the next step. Thank you, Nuria John, for putting the remover of difficulties in chat. So that short little prayer is in there. Just whatever works, please use that, whether it is breathing, saying a prayer, whether it is finding your center, calling to the loved ones who've gone to the next world, whatever works for you. So let me share this. Let's go back to the PowerPoint for a minute, if we may. Remember, I was saying that we were told the simplicity characterizing the offering of Baha'i prayers, whether obligatory or otherwise, should be maintained. Rigidity or rituals should be strictly avoided. So I'm hoping that I'm not introducing any ritual to us. I'm just saying, here's some things I have tried, but I want to make sure we're all learning together. There are no set forms of meditation prescribed in the teachings, no plan as such for inner development. The friends are urged, nay, enjoined to pray. They also should meditate, but the manner of doing the latter is left entirely to the individual. So whatever works for you. Okay, so friends, let's go to here. So we're going to now put everything together. So I'm going to ask you to grab you're going to need three things. You're going to need a question that you want a solution to. Don't choose something huge, just something small, something between what should I have for lunch to how can we get world peace. Find something in between. And then we're trying to get to calm and centered. So you want to feel this beautiful expansion by the time we're done. You want to feel very calm and centered. So grab a prayer, just find one online, or I know so many people have prayers memorized. Nuria John put remover of difficulties in chat if anybody wants to use that. Yara June put a link to Baha'i prayers in chat. If you want to go there, grab that, or grab a prayer from your own faith tradition, from Christianity, Judaism, Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, wherever. You're welcome to use that. We just want to practice together, okay? So this is what we're going to do. Remember the 5 steps? Can everyone see them? And remember the breathing exercise? This is just my approach. So I'm introducing it here again, but you can do whatever you would like. but we're going to put these two together. So think about your problem. We're going to go through each step and see where you get stuck. As soon as you get the monkey brain that Farah was talking about, you may want to jump to do the exercise of the breath work to find your center, or do whatever else you like to do to get back to center. And then let's go through it. I'm going to put on the timer. So your mind is going to fight you a little bit. It's okay. Just keep recentering. So no judgment here. You are going to get there when you need to get there. So find your problem, find your prayer, and let's go through this. I'm setting this for 5 minutes. We'll hear the chimes when it's done. Okay, dear friends. So, before we speak anymore, find a word or somewhere on your fingers, however you want to do it, or in your mind, set how you're feeling right now. Set it as a baseline for yourself, physiologically. So your body and mind know that this is what you want to feel when you trigger it with that word or action. Wonderful. Did you notice how you felt? How are you feeling? Good. You all look radiant from here. Fantastic. So, friends, this is, we're at a point where we can do Q&A if you like further, or we can end here so you can head out and carry out your decision. It's such a joy to be with you all. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. I think we'll end here just because we said we'd end at 1:30, but we thank you so much. That was an amazing interactive presentation.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to announce our speaker next week, Dr. Lamit Fananapazir, and his topic will be the return of Christ. And again, these talks occur every Saturday at noon Eastern time. And if you'd like to be on the mailing list, I've put my email address in the chat. Thank you, everyone. See you next week.
Thank you.